Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry with Dub Bears Talk, and today I'm going to be going over John Jackson III, who is famously, as of recently, been one of Caleb Williams' best friends and somebody who made the 90-man roster for the Chicago Bears. So, sure, it's pretty exciting for Caleb Williams. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and his comments on being able to have one of his best friends around, as well as some of John Jackson's comments on what he thinks of Caleb Williams. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into it in just a second, but first I want you to like the video. These videos have been doing great, these Everything You Need to Know videos, so keep up the love on those. I appreciate it. Comment down below what you think of John Jackson III and if you think he'll make the roster. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit here as well. And then finally, subscribe. More Everything You Need to Know videos coming out. Always welcome to recommend them in the comments. I do a pretty decent look at the background of these players. But let's get right into it. So John Jackson III, 6'1", 215. The 4'7", 140 is tough because it was at his pro day and he suffered a hamstring injury. So there was like a projected 4'6'4", which still isn't really that much better, but a 33-inch vertical as well. So not the greatest athlete. Vertical's pretty good. 6'1", 215 is pretty big guy. So obviously you have positive there. But I think you're not really this guy. I don't think is on the roster at the moment because of his athleticism. It's because he's Caleb Williams' best friend. You look at the stats. We have 41 games, 40 receptions, 309 yards, no touchdowns. And most of that was last year at Nevada. He actually had 35 receptions and led the team with 267 receiving yards. Didn't lead the team in receiving yards, but led in the receptions over there at Nevada. Their starting quarterback, only had 1,300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So not much going for him over there, but at least more playing time on the crowded USC wide receiver room in years past with, obviously, Brendan Rice and then Jordan Addison back when. But he's Caleb Williams' best friend, and most recently he stayed late at practice with Caleb Williams to help practice timing and learn routes and learn the playbook. And he's been a big help. Little background on his family. His dad played in the NFL for the Bears in the 90s and a little bit with the Eagles. His dad also played football at USC, played baseball and football, and was actually very successful, had records in football and baseball. He has a lot of family in USC all around. He has he grew up with Amon-Ra St. Brown, so that's another connection there. So a lot of connections all around. The connection to Caleb Williams, he only had one reception with Caleb Williams, but they became best friends the 1 year that they were together at USC and had been a connection ever since. He also said, Caleb, when asked about John Jackson, he said, "I'm excited for him in this opportunity. We've been working hard to dig into the playbook because he's in a situation where he's coming in here to try out." And so it's a pretty normal answer to that question, but it seems like he really does appreciate having one of his best friends to help learn everything and learn through. Now, the question ends up being, do you think he makes the roster? And then also last thing, he actually went to the same wide receiver training camp as Rome Odunze. So he actually has a connection to Rome as well. They went to TJ Houshmandzadeh's training camp. So spent that time together too. So Odunze has a connection. He has a lot of connections to Caleb Williams and USC. I guess quickly, pros and cons. Good size, Caleb's best friend. These are really not pros and cons of his game because he has so much little college tape. 40 receptions over 4 seasons and 309 yards, no touchdowns is just not enough to judge. The other thing, not really a con for him, but a con for making it on the roster would be all the competition that's there, as well as he suffered that hamstring injury. So clearly it isn't a worry enough to keep him off of the 90-man roster. Now, I think it could just be a situation where he ends up just staying. He's just there for the 90-man to be there with Caleb, help learn, maybe be a driving motivation. Not that Caleb needs that, but I think when you have the room there, you need wide receivers. You give a guy that's Caleb's best friend an opportunity. I do like that. I wanted the Bears to attack Brendan Rice or Taj Washington in the draft. Weren't able to get Taj in a UDFA signing. Got taken by the Dolphins in the 7th round, and then Brendan Rice got scooped up in the sixth round. It wasn't really a massive need. You have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and then you still have guys that were, still on the roster, previously re-signed in Velus Jones Jr. You have Colin Johnson, the 6'6" guy that came from the Giants, and then you have Dante Pettis is still going to be around, I believe. I don't think Trent Taylor. I'm trying to think of any other guys. There's a few other guys, so there is going to be a possibility. The Bears had as many as 9 wide receivers in the 53-man roster last year. So if there's room for 9 again, if there's a spot for him, if they're assuming that Velus Jones is just going to be a kick return guy, I think John Jackson could find a spot on the roster. It's going to be difficult, though. I don't think that Caleb is going to have enough pull to say, oh, yeah, I get this guy. This guy gets to be on the roster. I think, especially with that crowded wide receiver room, John Jackson III is really going to earn it. But I think it would be a cool opportunity to give Caleb a guy who is, one of his best friends. Give him an opportunity that he really never got in college with only getting 40 receptions in 41 games. So I'm interested to see what happens there. You think about the people that, other people were speculating the Bears could pair with Caleb Williams and Olu Fashanu, his teammate at Gonzaga, or who I just mentioned, Brendan Rice and Taj Washington. I think it would have been cool to pair up a friend. They still get to do that in John Jackson, and I think it definitely means something that he was able to make the 90-man. So it's going to be a tough run to make the 53-man, but that's about all I've got on John Jackson III. Again, let me know if you think he can make the roster. We're going to have to see at minicamp and at training camp if he can hold his own. He's probably going to have to, if you count the numbers, you have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Odunze are your 3 for sure. You'd assume Velus Jones with the kick return rules, he'll probably be around. So that's 4. Colin Johnson, I think, will be back. And Dante Pettis, I think, will be back. So that puts you at 6. I think if we can do like a 7th or an 8th, I think you can find a spot for him. I think, it's going to be an interesting situation because there also could be wide receivers that just get cut from other teams that they really have interest in. Or maybe, Taj Washington doesn't make it. Then how do you sit there and say, oh, we're going to take John Jackson and we're not going to take one of Caleb's favorite targets through college? If someone like that becomes available. Wouldn't be normal for a rookie draft pick to get cut. But in the sense that something like that happens, basically all I'm saying is there's going to be people that will come up that would make more sense to take over John Jackson III. But definitely a guy to look out in minicamp and keep an eye on as far as with the connection with Caleb Williams. He said that he really learned in the time that he spent with Caleb Williams how much of a competitor he is. And being close as a friend outside of football and how competitive he is in everything, not just football. So I like what I'm hearing from John Jackson III. I'll be interested to see if he can make the roster. And it'll be a fun person to watch in training camp to see if he can finally earn a spot and earn a position on a team where he can get any notoriety at all and any opportunity to have success. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and bear down.